So here's where I will locate. Here's how I located this movie then, and I'll just stick to the parts that I still think are valid because the whole theory is way too convoluted and long and ties in a whole bunch of other books, movies, and comic books. But we don't
Yeah.
have all night, so I'll just try to stick to a locus point of a handful of works, and based especially around the time frame they were released, and the significance, and also, well, except for one from the 80s, but it's the key one, and also symbolism, and also Native Americans. So there's one thing. So have both of y'all seen Brotherhood of the Wolf?
Mhm.
Uh, it sounds familiar.
You'd
It,
remember it if you've seen it.
it
It's
sounds
set in
familiar.
France in the 19th
Yes.
century.
Yes, I've seen it.
Mark
Needed
Dacascos
that
is
little
in it.
bit of detail to be like,
Yeah.
oh yes, this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's
Another
like
one
that
that may or
film
may not
title.
be a werewolf.
What is that?
But didn't you tell me, Keith, that you thought there was a werewolf in the movie for real? Yeah, we talked about it
No,
earlier.
no, no. That I was in the company of wolves.
Oh, see, I thought you meant the same thing was true about, but yeah, you're
Right,
right. It
right,
was
right, right.
my bad, my bad.
That's
Okay,
okay.
this is a segue to Wolfen, by the way.
Okay.
So to me, this art local locus point of these movies and stories are where Wolfen comes from.
Mhm.
Uh, so there's three movies that came out that, well, okay, there's two movies that came out in the 2000s that I saw, and one that I saw in the 2000s, revisited and fell back in love with, which was Wolfen. I saw them around the same time. Again, synchronicity, weird coincidences. And the white wolf is the symbol in all three of these movies. So, and these very vastly disparate movies. So the white wolf and Wolfen to me is the leader of the pack, the alpha wolf or whatever you want
Hmm.
to call it.
Mhm.
Now that symbol is also in Brotherhood of the Wolf. When Monty, the Indian, played by Mark Dacascos, he sees the white wolf. Now they never pursue the white wolf as a character. They never explain exactly, except just some vague like. And I don't think it's because of laziness or ignorance, like the writer of the Ginger Snaps movies, because I think the person who wrote Brotherhood of the Wolf knew what they were doing.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's like you're supposed to figure out this guy Monty. There's more to Monty than appears, and there's more to him being a Native American, and there's a lot of weird little clues in there about him. And one of them is when he sees the white wolf. Another one is when he recognizes the gypsy woman. Now the gypsy woman, again, I tracked down the character name everywhere. Her character name is only La Bavard, uh, which they didn't translate, but it translates to mean something like a loudmouth or something like that, a chatterbox, which I have no idea why they named her La Bavard. And because she hardly has any um, dialogue at all, and no one calls her by name, but she's the daughter, or seemingly the adopted daughter or ward of the old man who they got the fake Beast of Gavadan from when they put him in the armor and the stuff to perpetrate those murders on the countryside. So I notice when Monty sees La Bavard, he recognizes her, but again, there's no follow through. Okay, and then Monty, I'm thinking is going to be the main character because that's just where I am. But of course, Samuel Le Bihan playing Gregoire de Fronsac. Obviously, he's the white guy. He's going to be the star. It's going to be his story. But um, Monty gets killed, by their enemies. And how does he get killed? He gets killed by a silver bullet in the back. Again, never do they touch on why exactly. I mean, they it's like portentous, but then it
Hmm.
just is. It's like, okay, now he's dead. And I was like, when I first saw the movie, I was like, well, now what? He's dead. What kind of fucking plot are they gonna have? I didn't realize they were gonna go the whole his best friend basically culturally appropriates him. Which in this story I thought was fine the way they did it. And because I believe that Gregoire truly did respect and love Monty's world and lifestyle and worldview. He's the only white French character that did, except possibly the gorgeous, wonderful, what's her name, who played by Amélie Decon, one of the goddesses of cinema. I can't remember her name. It was Marianne de Moranger. So Marianne de Moranger, the redhead that Gregoire falls in love with. But other than those two, none of the white characters seem to respect or give a fuck about Monty or care about where he came from, and they all look down on La Bavard and that old man. And I think the implication to me is that there's a blood relation, based on their skin tone. I would say that La Bavard is also of the exact same tribe as Monty. Why does he recognize her? What are the chances? So, he's not from France. He's not from France, but they're in, it happens in New France. So in Canada, obviously these tribes are from Canada. Now, some people say the tribe Monty's from is the Mohawk. That could work. I don't have an ultimate conclusion on what this tribe is or could be compared to real tribes. Now, in my own story where I have Native American stuff, I actually pinpointed the real life tribes that I was going to associate with. But I could have done the same thing these people did, which is kind of not name the tribes or make it vague. But by not naming the tribes, I can make a case that they're the same tribe and that it's just a fictional tribe you could figure out geographically and study on your own and figure out who it is, probably. Because who was in Canada in 17th, 18th century in these areas. So, and why are they in Canada? So what other movie from this period took place in Canada partially? X-Men 2. So what does Wolverine do when he goes to Alkali Lake? He sees the White Wolf at the gates, and he goes, again, no follow through at all. It's just this mystic moment, which I know, is referring to how he was partially raised by wolves when his mutation kicked in the comic origin. But it's not even enough of elaboration to really build that on. And plus, his character has no memory, but he recognizes this white wolf. I mean, it seems like he gives deference to it. So, so that's to me, I kind of threaded this whole thing together. And, essentially I felt like it was one tribe, and that this tribe itself were theoriomorphic, that there were, and I did get some ideas about this from another guy I was working with at the time about this. But essentially they're all shape changers. Okay, so what we were saying earlier, so like every Wendigo and every werewolf is a theriomorph, but not every theriomorph is, both. So to me, they are not the same creature, but they are both theriomorphic. They're both carried by some kind of whatever, mystical whatever. But it's a transformation thing, and it can be genetic, and so I felt as though that's the origin of the Fitzgeralds. The prophecy, I think, my theory personally, I believe that Hunter was also a werewolf. And I believe that the old woman, all the Indians were werewolves. And those were the werewolves that Ginger summoned. They were all Indians because they were going to eat up all the fucking white people. And I know I'm being glib, but I'm being actually serious. I believe that as a theory. I'm not saying that that's definitely what it meant. But to me, in my reading, it fits in my reading. So my theory, though, that is just completely conjecture, was that Ginger and Hunter mated, maybe for life, and after the events of the movie, maybe Bridget hung around with them, maybe not. I theorize that Bridget got married, and then she has an interesting lineage of her own, but they're still connected, mystically. So any children that Bridget has, or grandchildren or whatever, could potentially be a shapeshifter also, but not all of them are. It could skip a generation. Something could trigger it, and not another one. But I felt as though Ginger and Hunter, they actually create like a colony, and one part of the colony goes and becomes the characters in The Howling, and one character goes and that's the beings in the Wolfen. And so Eddie, two Eddies, not Eddie Quist, but Eddie played by Edward James Olmos in The Howling, who keeps swinging the chain on the fucking Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. And my theory is he is a shapeshifter. I had pinpointed what wolf he was, actually. I thought I vacillated between him being the White Wolf, but then I thought, I don't know, the White Wolf would be more powerful. I don't think the White Wolf would spend the time living the kind of double life that Eddie would. But I do believe Eddie was more like the working class. So I believe he was one of the wolves that you see the Wolfen. And that's I think that's a misdirection that is planted in that movie on purpose. I haven't read the book, but I think it's possible. That's
Okay,
how I think it's a werewolf movie.
let me interject
Okay.
because of the book The Wolfen is very helpful in watching Wolfen.
Okay.
Because while I put it loosely into the werewolf category in the sense that we've got intelligent wolves going on, and in the movie there may be a hint of some shape-shifting aspect to it. The
That's just a
book,
hint.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a hint. In the book, it's very clearly not.
Yeah, I've been told that.
Because in the book, you actually, it's told from different perspectives, including getting inside the head of some of the Wolfen themselves. So
Okay.
you actually you get to see their perspective. You can't
Hence
do
the
that in the
POV
movie.
shots. Yeah.
Uh-huh. In the movie, you're just getting the stuff that's got the, heat filter and all that kind of stuff. But in the book, you're getting actually their thoughts and stuff. So you realize what they are as an evolved species that has now evolved to be above man in term. They are now the new alpha predator on the planet.
Right. Exactly.
That's ultimately what's the point of it. And but even with that and knowing that, the movie Wolfen still feels like a werewolf movie, even from that perspective, because we're still dealing with the same tropes of a werewolf story. And they are a unique species that has human level intelligence in a larger wolf body, which is very similar to many types of werewolf characters that you see, which are quadrupedal wolves with a human mind that are preying on humans. I mean, that's what's happening, which actually kind of ties us a little bit back to the Beast Must Die, and also because Beast Must Die also is one of the early adopters of the quadrupedal werewolf. When they turn into werewolves in the Beast Must Die, it's just German shepherds that they painted black, for the movie.
I think the key thing is, and this is not hinted, this is like blatantly stated in the movie, I'm assuming it is in the book, is that there is a connection between Eddie's tribe and all Indians and the Wolfen. And there always has been.
Yes, but here's the thing. What it is, the relationship is not that they are one and the same, but that the Indians have protected the Wolfen. Right. They have been a symbiotic type of relationship. And so the Native American tribes have known about them, and they have fueled lots of myths and things and folklore and all that, and probably a lot the idea being that the Wolfen are the source material for some of the folklore surrounding the concept of the werewolf, that kind of a thing. So it's not that it's sciencey. Whitley Strieber is not a science guy. I mean, he definitely goes off into supernatural. I mean, so it is supposed to be supernatural, but it's a naturalistic type of supernatural in that it's supposed to be presented as something that developed naturally, but there is mind reading and telepathic communication that happens and all of that. So it definitely falls into the fantasy camp. And like I said, the movie itself particularly hits almost all of the tropes of a modern werewolf movie.
The murders really kind of started off.
Everything about it. And so I think it's more of like a modern werewolf movie with a twist, and the twist being that it's not actually a werewolf. It might be worse than a werewolf. Because we're talking now a tribe of or what is it, a pack of wolves that has become expansive. Like there's a lot of them, and they're growing fast. kind of a thing.
And then they're activist wolves because they're protesting more shit getting built.
Exactly. They are now proactively coming in here and taking out humans. You know, and so
and the other connection, the other movie that I'd mentioned already a couple of times, but in Ravenous, they're Native American characters, and they tell the audience what a Wendigo or their legends. And who's to say that, you know, the theriomorphic gene or whatever came from either some of those characters being part Indian, or, you know, of course, obviously the implication is what I guess is they eat the human flesh. That's what makes them into a Wendigo, as opposed to being scratched like a werewolf.
Right.
Maybe the eating the flesh is just like the trigger for a Wendigo. Maybe a Wendigo is always meant to be a shapeshifter, maybe not. Maybe a werewolf is. I don't know. You know, I mean, I guess it depends on the story. But the way I thought about Ravenous was it also had that Native American lore, and that they were transformative creatures, and that Ives was kind of the, well, Colquhoun. Colquhoun was really an incredible character, because I believe that he is somebody who this thing happened to, and he very quickly not only mastered it, but planned to use it to conquer any fucking human that came in his way. And of course, they used the real life historical manifest destiny. They literally said it in the movie, because that's when it's happening. Again, historical facts mixed in. That's what Colquhoun's, you know, thing is about. And when he says this is the West is going to open up, you know, we're going to eat all these people. They're going to be either become us, or they're become dinner, you know. And so I feel like he's kind of, again, he's pushing he's almost like a messiah of transformative, you know, this theomorphic phenomenon. And of course, Guy Pearce's character, whose name I forgot, he resists it. He's the character who, I want to stay human, but the only way I can beat this motherfucker is to become like him. But he still keeps his conscience afterwards, which the Jeffrey Jones character doesn't, but he kind of does, because when Guy Pearce kills him, he says, "Thank God." So, but when they first encounter him and he's eating, he's acting just like an ass, you know, like, I love being a Wendigo. But I think he did kind of hate part of it too. But Guy Pearce obviously hates all of it. And why is that triggered? Well, it's triggered by a prophetic traumatic incident that happens to him, where he's buried over all those bodies. Now, the blood of those bodies leaked into his mouth. Who knows? Maybe that carried a latent theomorphic thing. Who knows? You know, there's just a lot of little bits, you know, you can connect. It's a lot bigger than this, but that's the gist of it. With those handful of movies with the Native American imagery.
That's cool. Let me bring in this one last thing. I'll go ahead and skip Company of Wolves. We don't need to go down that rabbit trail. Let me just, because this ties into the white wolf concept.
Okay.
Because you talked about Jack Russell and the Werewolf by Night, but remember, we've also got the man wolf.
Yeah, and he's a white wolf.
Okay, yeah. The man wolf is a white wolf, and uniquely in Marvel Comics with the man wolf. And I'm not going to talk a lot about what they've done with him in the 2000s, because I don't care. But back in the 70s and 80s, I got
all the 70s comics.
Yeah, back in the 70s and 80s, when we're talking about the man wolf proper, you're dealing with and I'm assuming, Kaylin, you don't know anything about this, right?
No, no comics.
Okay.
But please don't do a Shelley and walk away from your desk.
Okay. Well, here, just in brief, in the Spider-Man comics, J. Jonah Jameson had a son named John Jameson, who was an astronaut. And a lot of people don't know that unless they were hardcore.
He's in the movies
Spider-Man.
too. The
barely,
yeah, just
barely. But anyway, so John, in the course of the comics in the 70s, he actually landed on the moon. So he was one of the guys who walked on the moon. And while he was on the moon, he found a red stone, and he took that with him when he came back. It turns out that red stone was a little something more than just a red stone, and it was not a bloodstone; it was a godstone. And but yeah, so but anyway, he went and he had it like turned into jewelry. He put it in the 70s, he made it into a choker that he would wear. And what happened was it embedded itself in there. It tendrils into him like that. And come the full moon, boom, he becomes a werewolf. And this is as different than the Jack Russell version, which was visually based on the werewolf, the Wolfman, the Lon Chaney Wolfman look, right? So the man wolf is fully like what we more think of nowadays, right? It's he's up like a man covered in fur, bulky, and he's got the snout. And
he's got the snout, the muzzle,
and he's white, I guess, and I think visually that was be reflective of the moon, that the moon and the white, but I think it ties in because I think that white wolf thing is something. I think there's an archetype there, energy, whatever you want to say. But what happened was nobody really has ever really known what to do with man wolf until they came up with the concept of the star god. And that
actually the same guy wrote all of them.
Yeah. But I think
except for the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, except for the initial thing. When I think that beautiful comic book, if you ever could find that one, I think it was Gil Kane maybe did the pencils, and then John Romita on the inks.
Yeah,
it was either Gil Kane or Ross Andrew.
Never
but
I
really think it was Gil Kane.
It was. Yeah.
And but anyway, great comic, and he tear through that astronaut suit and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, later what happened was it turned out like we found out like where that stone came from, and it was like an other dimensional place, and it's an other realm, but it also is kind of in the moon at the same time, because like when he would go to the other realm, when he got pulled into it as man wolf, he got his mind back, so he would have the full power of the man wolf in the body of the man wolf, but he would have his own mind.
He was a god in that reality.
Yeah, and he became the star god there, and wielding a sword, and his fantastic design on him from George Perez, with and it just a great character that they really didn't do as much with as they probably could have, and I think would be great for a movie or a TV thing, but it may be one of the first times that we had like that a werewolf showing up that had that snout instead of the flattened look that we had. It's even more pronounced than I think the little extra added bit that they did for the Oliver Reed werewolf to distinguish him a little bit. But he's a full-on dog mouth. He's a snout.
It's really funny. This is how small a world we live in, and the wonders of the internet is that I'm still in imminent danger of losing everything. But at least I'm not in as much pain, and I can walk, albeit with a cane. But someone who helped me financially last month, besides this wonderful person here, Halen, but someone who actually stunned me by how much money she gave me.
That's cool.
Was a woman named Jennifer Bush Kraft. Now she's
Dave Kraft,
his widow.
Yeah.
And Dave Kraft is the guy, Kalen, who wrote all these stories.
Yeah.
So, I'm good friends with a guy that was sort of Dave's mentee.
There about Cecil.
Yeah, Cecil. Yeah.
Oh, I've known Cecil for years. We were going to do a comic book together.
Oh, well, there you go.
Celu Disharoon.
Yeah.
He got tight with Dave. Dave was weird because
real tight.
I met Dave when I was like 18, maybe. No, earlier than that. I met him when he was writing The Defenders. I have a few of them signed. And then I met him a few years later and we talked about, by that time I was really into Blue Oyster Cult. So I got all the references. And then years later, when I got on MySpace, I was like, you probably don't remember me, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I remember you, because I mean, how many people in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was, the middle of nowhere, know about Blue Oyster Cult and the Defenders. And then we got on Facebook, we chatted a bit, and I knew Cecil and him got really tight though. But Dave was always kind to me. I had no idea he was sick. And one thing I noticed is that Jennifer, and I've known, this is just a weird thing about life. I'm not saying it's any eternal verity, but I've known a few people who have been males who've been creative, who have passed away before their time, and that I knew, and their widows have sought me out just because I knew them. I'm not saying they only sought me out, but they sought me out in the sense of, oh, you knew so and so. They wanted to get a view of a fan of their late husband's work, because Mary Screens and I are friends that way too, and she also donated to me last year. So these two women have become like not patrons but matrons, I guess, of me. But I grew up with their husband, their late lovers, in case of Mary, who were arguably two of the most important formative influences on me as a writer.
That's
and a
so
person.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I never met Steve Gerber, but I run that group. I own it.
Really?
I inherited it. Somebody abandoned it, and it got abandoned around the time he passed. So I renamed it Steve Gerber RIP. So so that's my group, and I hope you're
that's funny. Gerber was one of those comic writers that for some reason I wound up getting into, like an email exchange with.
I had a brief one with, but not
and we just kind of kept it just kind of kept going. We would just kind of keep on going like that. So Dwayne McDuffie was another one I had that thing with. It's just these guys that just quietly. It was kind of before the Facebook scene. It's been we still had bulletin boards and that kind of stuff. And you get into that, and so it's just the real